Welcome in, everyone, to Rock Solid Sports. It's Wednesday night. I'm Chloe. I'm here with Jacquez at Fieldhouse Social. That is 2525 University Commons Way. It's our Wednesday night sponsor. And yeah, we are excited to be here. Let's get into it. First of all, Rock Solid Sports Wednesday night show sponsored by Fieldhouse Social, 2525 University Commons Way. We thank them for their support. American craft food, beer, and cocktails. A 21-foot digital big screen TV indoors and plenty more TVs throughout the restaurant and a back patio. Open at 11 a.m. Wednesdays through Sundays and open at 4 p.m. on Mondays and Tuesdays. We got Dominic and Jackson back in the studio, our soccer guys, which works perfect because we are actually about to dive right in to our One Knox interview for this week. This is our weekly interview with One Knox SC head coach Mark McKeever that Dominic recorded just a little bit earlier today. Let's give it a listen.
SC Mark McKeever, how are you doing today?
Doing just fine, Dom. How are you doing yourself?
Doing all right. Hoping to see some great football, both soccer-wise and American-wise this coming weekend.
There you go.
And getting right into things, last week the club lost a tight one to Tormenta 1-0. Walk us through that match.
Yeah, it was a tough one. We had all the stats in our favour. We had 60% possession. We had 18 shots in goal. I think 12 of which were recorded inside the 18-yard box. And it's a different game, but a similar story to the rest of the games that we've failed in. We're just, we don't quite have the goal scorers. So we needed a big moment and somebody to step up and put the ball in the back of the net, and it didn't happen. And we had a lot of chances. On a positive note, I felt as though that we played some great soccer. Some fluent, creative soccer to get the ball from A to B. And we're just missing the icing on the cake. The cake is certainly there for all to see. The players are evolving and enjoying their soccer. It's just hard to walk away when you play so well. You create so many chances. The last year's champions, and we've outplayed them, completely outplayed them. But we've walked away with 0 points. So, happy with the performance, really, really disappointed to have lost the game. The other part there is we lost a free kick outside regulation time. The referee showed that he was going to play 1 minute extra time. He played 3.5. They scored in that 3.5 minute period, and it wasn't even a foul. It should have been a foul for us and not against us. So it's a double whammy. I feel as though, again, the referee has influenced the game, unfortunately. But the opposite side of that is the referee doesn't score our goals, and we didn't do that ourselves. So we've got to hold ourselves accountable as well.
Definitely a tough one to take, but glad to hear that the team is playing great soccer and learning through it. But to switch it up a little bit and focus on a more positive note, you've often expressed a lot of love and support for youth soccer. So I want you to tell us about some of your best experiences getting the youth involved in the game.
Yeah, so I think probably my experiences, I would have to talk about my son's team. I started my son's team, I think it might have been 4 years ago now, and I had coached them through the recreation levels in Georgia. And then a group of us wanted to get a competitive travel team when we were in Georgia. And I'll be honest, there was only really 10 kids within 4 counties that wanted to play in our age group and be competitive. So we put the kids together, and I remember going to the first tournament, Chattanooga Redwells tournament, and we lost our first game 11-0. So having progressed through that season, we went back the following season, and we became finalists at the same tournament, and we narrowly lost to the team that beat us 11-0. They beat us then 4-3, and then the following season we beat them in penalty kicks. So right now that little group from Georgia are now involved in One Knox. They're the One Knox Georgia team. They're a 2011 team made up of 2011 and 2012 players. So a little bit of mix there, but they travel up every second weekend to play and to see my son's team and the team that I've coached and created. A lot of those kids I have coached since they were 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old. So to see them coming up here and competing and winning some games, and it pulls my heartstrings. So that's been a journey. Great families, great kids. So it's been a great story for them to come on board with us at One Knox here. So it's great to see them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Definitely makes me think back to when I was younger, and my dad was also my coach when I was playing. So it's really special. And also with the youth, Knoxville has their own youth academy set up. Is there any recent developments with that or any recent progress?
Yeah, I think everything's progressing all the time. We have some DOCs here in house that are just working relentlessly around the clock, and I think it's the same as the club. One Knox SC. I think the first team bleeding down to the academy, bleeding into the regular club lads and girls. I feel as though nothing has been amazing, but everything has been really good, right? And the opportunity is absolutely extreme. I think everybody within the club is invested in the youth club being great, the academy being great, and the first team being great, and that's coming from a leadership at the top. They know the value in our youth club in the community. So we think about that as a big part of who we are and who we're going to be in 5 years and 10 years. That youth club and that academy is going to be a big part of our identity moving forward.
Yeah, I always love to hear about it because soccer is such a special sport in that capacity where it's very grassroots as opposed to a lot of the professional sports in the United States. And for the younger listeners we have out there, what would be your advice to those young Americans dreaming of one day stepping foot on the pitch for a professional club?
Oh, wow. I think the advice that I always give is you have to be willing to always control the controllables. So, going to your practice, listening to your coach, working as hard as you possibly can work, being on time, communicating in the right way, listening in the right way. I think the 3 L's are always apparent to any type of development. If you look at the right times and you listen at the right times, then probably you're going to learn. So if you can control the controllables and concentrate on the 3 L's, then there's a chance, right? Now, there's other factors in there, such as your technical ability, tactical ability, the physical, the psychological. So those are the 4 pillars of soccer. And hopefully you're in the right environment to allow you to keep leveling up and keep progressing. But if you concentrate on the controllables, control them, apply the 3 L's, then there's a chance that you can reach your potential. Everybody's potential is different. If you reach your potential, then it's somebody else's job to notice you, to see that you're doing the right thing and to see that you're good enough. And for some, that may be the case, and for others, that won't be.
Yeah, definitely always an interesting journey out there for really any young professional athlete. Definitely always good to hear some advice there. And now looking ahead to Charlotte on Saturday, what do you want to see out of your guys in this matchup?
Goals, Dominic, goals, and he goals. We, against Greenville, we were brilliant. Again, we outpossessed them, we outshot them. We defended very well. We lost the goal in a moment. Tormenta, we outplayed them, we outpossessed them, we outshot them, and we lost that. I mean, to be fair, both goals that we lost were good goals from our opponents, and our opponents have good players. We just need to score goals. It's the one thing that has been missing from the very, very beginning. Our highest scorer has 5 goals. Everybody else in the league has 2 or 3 players on 8 to 10 to 15 goals, and so that's where we've really, really lacked this year. And not for want of trying, no, Dom. My lads try their hardest. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're not invested. It's not because they're not trying to score goals. They are trying to score goals. So, like I say, I can never fault the boys for their effort. It's one piece of the puzzle that's missing. Like I say, we're missing the icing on the cake, but the cake is all there. Unfortunately, it's the icing portion that gets the points, right? So, but it's definitely on our radar to make that right, to move us forward. We need a goal scorer.
For sure. And that's definitely one thing you can always tell watching your team. Just lots of beautiful build-up play, but the goals, we need them. And hopefully this weekend, there's a lot of points put up on Carolina teams.
I hope so.
All right. That's all from me today. As always, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, brilliant, Dom. Appreciate your time, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was One Knox SC head coach Mark McKeever talking to Dominic a little bit earlier today. What a great interview. That was a really nice touch, him in there talking about youth soccer and stuff. That was a really good question to ask him, Dominic.
Thank you. I know that Mark just really loves youth soccer, and he has a great passion for just getting younger people involved in the game, especially in the States. And so it's always fun to hear him speak on that, and just it's really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. It is. And like I was there for the Greenville game, and yeah, they, even when they were down, they were being resilient. They weren't willing to just take it, or just, I guess, like just take it lying down. They were trying their hardest to come back from that. So yeah, they are resilient, and I think that they will give it their all for their next few games.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you heard in the interview, One Knox coming off from this previous Saturday, a loss to South Georgia. Before that, at home, they did have a loss to Greenville Trans, both of these 1-0 losses. And coming up here shortly, they will be playing Charlotte Independence this Saturday in Charlotte, and then they will finally return home on October 6th to take on Richmond Kickers, their last home game of the fall season. So, yeah, a lot of exciting things for One Knox kind of wrapping up the season. I'm really hoping, to see them kind of wrap it up well. They've had their ups and downs this season. They've had a lot of back-to-back games on the road, especially, which is where, of course, it makes sense. You see them struggling a lot of the time. But with this last game against Richmond, hoping for a win in Knoxville, of course, hoping for wins in Charlotte and in North Carolina as well.
Question number 3.
And with that, we will get into really quickly the latter half of our soccer segment. Lady Ball Soccer, they tied 1-1 in South Carolina this weekend. That game was in Columbia, and now they're going to play Mississippi State in Starkville. And kind of similarly to One Knox, they will finally be home on October 5th to play Kentucky here in Knoxville. So this team is in the midst of SEC play right now. They lost to Arkansas, who is the number 11 team in the country, but then they beat Florida 2-0 last week. We were talking about this last week on the show about how it would be really great if the Lady Balls were to beat Florida after that terrible football game, and then they did, so that was really exciting. But then a tie in South Carolina. You guys have any thoughts on them going in further to SEC play with Mississippi State and Kentucky in the next few weeks here, and what should we expect to see from these Lady Vols in this midst of SEC play this season?
Yeah, I think that the tie is honestly a little bit disappointing to draw against South Carolina. That's a team that they can definitely beat, and I'm sure they're thinking that to themselves, that they should have won that game. But this is a team with a lot of talent, like we've been saying, and I really think that they can win the SEC with some level of comfort. So it's now the point in the season where it's time to just start getting results consistently. Obviously, beating Florida was a great step, but it needs to be a little bit more consistent at this point. I mean, drawing against South Carolina is not the best. That's not a terribly great soccer team right now.
Yeah, they've also, I've noticed this. I was at the Florida game, and I'd previously done the other games, but they have been taking a lot less shots, I noticed. During those games, they were averaging like at minimum 25 shots. And for the Florida game, I think it was just 15. So it feels like they're just trying to kind of tighten down a little bit, like I mean, of course you want to take the shots if you think you can take those shots, but it seems as though they're like taking that back a little bit, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, the Lady Vols are definitely, a team that's rebuilding for sure, but they've been doing a great job with it. They're still definitely a good team. They're in and out of the rankings a lot. So this team has been exciting to watch. Definitely very, they've had some very exciting games thus far. So I'll be excited to see how they do moving forward. Hoping for the best for them. Like you said, the 1-1 tie in South Carolina, not exactly what you want, but it's not a loss. So there's that. Dylan Becker on StreamYard, one of our alumni, says, glad to see how much One Knox Wednesdays has grown since we started in the spring. Go Vols, guys. Absolutely. Thank you, Dylan, for tuning in. We'll for sure miss you during hockey season, of course, but we'll be excited to hopefully get back with Ice Bears Wednesdays as well here in just a few weeks. So that's kind of our soccer segment there. Lady Vols and the weekly interview with your head coach, Mark McKeever of One Knox SC. We got a lot more to talk about on the other side. College football. Tennessee goes up 2 spots from 23 to 21 in the AP poll after beating UTSA 45-14 this weekend. They'll take on South Carolina this weekend. It's also a loaded weekend once again for college football. We'll be right back into that on the other side. You're listening to Rock Solid Sports and Volunteer Radio, 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club soccer team for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, and the season runs into October with matches against Memphis, Chattanooga, Lexington, and more USL League One opponents. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com. And WUTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. One Knox SC. We are one.
90.3 The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department for their support. The 2023 football Vols will play home games at Neyland Stadium against SEC rivals South Carolina, Georgia, Texas A&M, and others. Allvols.com for info, with a link at WUTKradio.com. UT student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. 90.3 The Rock says, Go Vols!
This is Ed from the Dirty Bourbon River Show. You're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3 The Rock, Knoxville's home for classic alternatives.
WUTK thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting the Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the pregame and postgame location for UT football, and Knoxville's home for the NFL Sunday Ticket, Titans football on the big screen, and more. Rock Solid Sports kicks off Monday Night Football with the show's live broadcast from 7 to 8 Monday nights at Cool Beans. Cool Beans is 21 and over after 9 p.m. with a full and late night menu. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Corey Mason Shoes on Gate Street and at Westel Mall. And Bliss Home at the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music by bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the V-Roys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgrave, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emmylou Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss Home, and Corey Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department for their support. Info for the UT Volunteers' next home football game Saturday, September 30th versus South Carolina with a kickoff time of 7:30 p.m. More information is at allvols.com. Student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Tune in to WTK's Rock Solid Sports for football coverage all season long. 90.3 The Rock says, Go Vols.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. AllVols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, Go Vols basketball. The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, Go Ice Bears!
Welcome back to Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. I'm Chloe here with Jacquez, and we are at Fieldhouse Social, our sponsor for tonight. As you can hear, they got trivia going on tonight, as they do every Wednesdays. Yeah, definitely a super fun place to be most nights and Wednesdays as well. They got this huge TV, if you can see, if you're watching our stream in the back there, and a lot of other TVs as well to watch any sport. They have, I forget what it's called, but it's like the tag that they show on ESPN. It's like tag, like they run around and they play tag. I don't know, but it's really entertaining and it kind of gets my adrenaline going. So that's always fun. So they have everything, as you can imagine, and we thank Fieldhouse Social so much for being our Wednesday night sponsor. Let's get into some college football here. We'll start off with the home team. Tennessee goes up 2 spots to number 21 in the AP poll because they beat UTSA 45-14. Joe Milton leading yards in that game, I think, passed for 209 yards. Guys, if your faith with Joe was wavering in any way, have you gained it back? And what did you think of Joe Milton's performance on Saturday?
I thought it was a great performance from Joe personally. I think that this team has shown a lot of promise, and it started looking a lot better. Joe completed some deep passes, which that's something we've all been wanting to see. And people will point to the deep balls that were not complete. However, I don't think that's too big of concern, considering the fact that Joe, at the bare minimum, he put the ball in spots that the defense couldn't reach. He didn't underthrow, he overthrew, which is usually always going to be a lot better for you if you're taking a shot down the field. You don't want to give the defense any chance at picking it. So I think he did a very nice job. But notably, I feel like the receivers, it's a lot different from last season. We're not seeing guys break away the same way they did. I just think that we're really missing Tillman, Hyatt, and just that receiving core from last year, because the separation they're creating is just, it's not the same that it was last season. And that's my only real concern, because honestly, I think we did a phenomenal job this game. I was really impressed with the team, even with a little bit of a third quarter lull. I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat with the thoughts on Joe Milton. I think he played fine. My faith in him has been restored a little bit for the time being. Of course, he had that opening play where it was an 80-yard run to the house, so that was always fun to see. And I think you're right about the whole wide receivers getting separated. It's just not, you're not seeing that. And Hyatt was able to like explode and get downfield and do that, but with these other guys, it doesn't feel like that's happening. And I think you are right about the whole overthrowing being better than underthrowing. I think it's better to just miss than to kind of give it into a position where the defense can kind of take it, and in some cases that would probably be a pick six.
Yeah, I thought he did pretty good. I think as an offense and as a team, I thought they played very well together. But I would like to see more individuals perform better. I think Joe could have performed way better at times. He missed 13 passes, and that's missing 13 passes outside of conference. So, like, when you go and you play these tough teams in the SEC, you can't miss 13 passes. Like, he has to find a way to be able to complete more passes with his receivers and make more connections down the field. I also thought the running backs did a very outstanding job of running the ball. I thought they came down, they ran very hard. So coming up into this next game, everybody needs to be on one accord. I thought this was a good game to rally everyone back together after coming off the loss of the week before last. So this is going to be an interesting week coming up when they play in UC down in Neyland.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you guys for sure. Joe Milton, definitely a better game this week, and definitely, like Dominic was saying, we're starting to see how spoiled we were as Vols fans with Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman both out there on the field. So I don't know that, and we still have, of course, great wide receivers. However, Ramel Keaton, I don't think we have an update on his injury status as of right now. I think he went down towards the end of the game. It was like the third or fourth quarter. So that's a little worrisome. We wish him the best. If I'm wrong, someone correct me, but I don't think there's any updates on injuries for any of the players right now, but Ramel Keaton being one of the most notable ones, because that was the one where something, he was definitely, looks like he could be injured for more than for maybe next week as well. But we'll see about that. And as Jacquez kind of mentioned, next week, South Carolina, first night game in Neyland. It is going to be electric. I know it's going to be electric because it's a night game in Neyland, and nights in Neyland have always been electric, even when during the Pruitt years. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as going into South Carolina, this is a game that a lot of people have marked as a revenge game, and while that would be great, South Carolina does worry me just a little bit. I know me and Jacquez were talking about it before the show, about their defense, and I mean, Spencer Rattler, he's playing his best ball this year, so this is a little bit worrisome. I think that the Vols could do it, but I think that it's going to be one where I'm biting my nails for sure.
Rattler is playing his best ball right now, but he's playing without an offensive line. I mean, South Carolina's offensive line has been atrocious throughout this season, and I believe they actually have a couple of injuries on that offensive line that already looked in tatters. So it's not going to be a pretty weekend for them, especially considering how our defensive line has looked as of late. We have a defensive line that creates a lot of pressure on the quarterback. It's been great at getting backfield tackles. We have a great defensive line at getting in. It's more so when we run into a better offensive line that can contain us, we end up missing tackles, and that usually happens more so in our secondary, which looks a lot worse than our defensive line. But in this game, I think we really will win this one, and I think that Vegas knows something a lot of people don't, because they put the odds at UT winning this game by over, I think it was 11 or 13 points, which clearly they think UT is going to win and win big, which I think is very much a possibility. Rattler is going to have to do everything, as he has for South Carolina this entire season, but it's going to be difficult with our defensive line, and I think that the offense has finally figured it out. I think we kind of needed that loss against Florida so the team could get their heads right, and I mean, the expectations were too high, and now they're at a point where the team feels comfortable with their expectations and just looks a lot better. We're going to beat South Carolina. We are.
I'm a little bit nervous for it, I have to admit. I went to the game last year in Columbia, and to say I was disappointed about it
is rough.
And I'll say this: I loved the stadium. The atmosphere was phenomenal. Just
No,
the game itself.
The atmosphere was terrible.
Well, I mean, I was also in the nosebleed, but even from there, it was still I enjoyed everything about it except for the game itself. But I don't know. There's something about this that just going into this game, there's this uneasy feeling, I guess, is what it is. It's because they're so focused. Because of course, after last year, they're probably focused on this game on top of it all. But maybe there's the idea of they're focusing way too much on it. Because of course, you mentioned Spencer Rattler doesn't really have an offensive line, but he also, I believe, against Georgia, he threw for 400 yards, didn't he, or something like that? Or
I think it was closer to the 250, 300
maybe,
mark. But he still looked great in that game. However, Georgia did not look like the same Georgia we had seen. But they pulled it back in the second half.
Yeah. And, of course, the secondary still concerns me. That's something that hasn't left since last season, was the secondary being an absolute red flag for me for this team. So I do think they'll win. Of course, it is in Neyland, so I'm sure that the crowd would help a lot for this. So I don't know. I do think that they will come out on top still.
Jacquez, you're from Columbia and
Ah.
you played football in the SEC. I think you're the person we need to go to for this one. What are you looking at about South Carolina and this Tennessee matchup on Saturday?
Look, I don't know. I'm 50-50. Let me tell you why. I'm from Columbia, but right now I'm a Vol and I go to Tennessee. I think Spencer Rattler, I think he played very well against Georgia, considering these are reigning champs, and for it to be as close as it is going into the third quarter and fourth quarter, and Georgia then getting pulled off into the end of the fourth quarter, I don't know. I think Tennessee got a little lightning strike coming into Neyland. This team is definitely this team definitely has a lightning bolt underneath them. DeCarrion Joyner, he plays running back after changing 3 different positions from going quarterback, wide receiver, and now as a running back. I also think he has a chip on the shoulder along with Spencer Rattler. I think USC as a whole has rallied together this season to try to prove a point that they can be a competitive team in the SEC. And not even to mention Debo Williams. He's a linebacker for the Gamecocks, and he is top 5 right now leading tacklers in the SEC. So he's also coming in with a chip, and I'm tell you, the Vols better pack it up because I think I may roll with the Gamecocks this weekend. They did beat my Mississippi State Bulldogs, but yeah, I think I'm gonna roll with the Gamecocks this weekend.
Oh man, Dominic, are you still so sure?
I am sure. I
stand strong.
Looking to that Georgia game that you guys are so obsessed with, what kept South Carolina in that game was their defense. Believe it or not, I mean, Spencer Rattler, he did look good, but that was a super low-scoring affair until Georgia ran away with it. I mean, South Carolina ended the game with 14 points? For me personally, the Vols, we saw the atmosphere for Ole Miss. This might rival that atmosphere in terms of just pure malice in that Neyland Palace. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be evil. It's going to be hateful in there. I would not want to be a South Carolina fan. I would not want to be a South Carolina player. I don't think they can show up. Besides Spencer, I don't think the rest of that team can show up.
Look. Look. Gamecocks have a crazy defense. We have yet to see Tennessee offense get rolling. So if Gamecocks come in there and play outstanding defense, Tennessee is going to have to play electrifying offense.
That is the model team.
Against UTSA, though, our offense did look good.
That's UTSA. That's out of conference.
that is a solid Group of 5 team. I will give you the fact that it's not an SEC team. It's not the same boat. But this Tennessee offense moved the ball down the field extremely effectively. Just looked a lot more confident. I just feel like this offense is trying to play. And I feel like this game they're going to do it.
What state makes up most of the
And to all that, is this one of your relatives?
Yeah, this is my mom. She's a big Gamecock fan. You know.
So you grew up cheering for South
No.
Carolina?
I didn't like Clemson or Gamecocks.
Oh.
I kind of like hop on the bandwagon each season of wherever team is rolling. Right now, I'm rolling with the Colorado. Down in Boulder right now. I'm loving the Deion effect. But
We're
yeah,
going to talk about that in a minute. But yeah, Dylan Becker once again. Some of that South Carolina fans cheered when Hendon went down last year. Revenge tour in full effect. We got to do it. If we do it, Joe has to do it for Hendon. That was personal. It's personal. It's just so personal. We can all agree as Tennessee fans that were here last year and Tennessee fans that watched from afar, that was very personal. So we got to do it. If we do it, come on. This game, I will be very upset if Tennessee loses, genuinely. So we'll see how it goes. Night game in Neyland. Hopefully similar environment. Blackout night, of course, similar environment. Hopefully to Kentucky last year, which was an amazing game, an amazing environment. I'm crossing my fingers for sure. I'm going to go with the Vols, but not by much. I got to go with the Vols maybe by maybe by a touchdown. I don't know. That's what I do when I'm nervous about us losing, so we'll see. Also on let's go ahead and, because you mentioned it, let's talk about Colorado this week. Like I said, tons of games. USC versus Colorado. who lost to Oregon last weekend. I cannot tell you how many times I watched that video of the Oregon Duck beating that box that said Prime on it, and then his head falling off. Aside from that, did you guys see that? He came out wearing, like, they were kept trying to troll Colorado, wearing the cowboy hat and the sunglasses.
No, I didn't see that one.
Duck and his head fell off. Oregon still got the win at the end of the day. How are we feeling about Colorado, especially playing USC? How are we just feeling about Colorado after that one, you guys?
They're about to get smoked 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Colorado. I mean, of course, USC being potential playoff contenders, and I don't think that's without question. And I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Colorado comes out and shocks the world. Maybe they take the loss to Oregon personally. Or who knows? Maybe they'll go and step on USC's logo and never learn from that. So,
even though I think that Colorado is going to get smoked, I do think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. USC's defense is non-existent. It's not a real thing. They don't know how to tackle. They still refuse to learn how. And this USC team, I could honestly see picking up 3 losses this season in a tough Pac-12. But I still think the talent gap is just so huge on pretty much all sides of the ball, with USC just being such a marquee program going up against Colorado, that I just think there's no way Colorado wins this one.
Yeah, Don, I ain't gonna lie to you. I definitely agree. It's sad to say the way they got beat by Oregon, I was devastated because I just thought that was definitely going to be a game that they come in and it was going to be a very exciting matchup. But I don't think they win against USC, but I think this would definitely be another game that they learn as a young team. And I say next year when they come in, we're back in Boulder effect.
Yeah, I think, Colorado is going to lose this one, I think. But it's without a doubt, like the rest of the season, I will still be keeping my eye on Colorado. It's crazy what they've done, what Deion Sanders, it's Deion Sanders, has done over there. And this is always a team that you got to turn on because you never know what might happen. So we'll see. Still be tuning into this one for sure. We got a lot of other games coming up as well this weekend. In the SEC, we'll go there for a minute. Florida versus Kentucky, Georgia versus Auburn, Mizzou versus Vandy, LSU versus Ole Miss, and Alabama versus Mississippi State. These are all games that I could definitely feel like I could pick the winner for all of them without having to think about it. But at the same time, these are a lot of historic rivalries. These are a lot of good games. If you guys had to pick a game this week that you think for in the SEC is going to have an upset, who are you going with out of these SEC games?
I'm looking to Florida versus Kentucky for a really interesting matchup that's going to tell us a lot about both of these teams, because at this point in the season, I still don't know quite what to make of either of them. I mean, obviously Florida beat us, but they don't look like the greatest team. And Kentucky, they've won all their games, but they don't look like the greatest team either. And this will be kind of both of the teams' first time going against real competition. So I'm looking to that one, and I don't know who's going to win it, but we're going to learn a lot about how the SEC East is going to play out this season.
I'm with him in that boat. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. And, of course, like he said, it's just kind of going to be the defining game of whether or not this team may be for reals or not.
I definitely agree. Florida versus Kentucky should be an interesting one. However, LSU versus Ole Miss obviously would have to go with LSU for the win with that one. But I still think, guys, and I know that LSU is overrated. LSU, beat Mississippi State by a lot, but
by a whole bunch.
Ole Miss is a different story. So we'll see. Ole Miss, we'll see with Ole Miss. That's a game I'm definitely have my eye on. If Ole Miss beats them, there you have it. LSU is overrated, and I told everyone this, and I told them it when they played Florida State, and everyone said, "Well, Florida State is overrated too." And I was like, "Okay," but we'll just have to see. LSU versus Ole Miss, I have my eye on. I think LSU will win it, but I think that Ole Miss has a chance in this one. So,
yeah, I think I'm with Chloe on this one. I think I'm gonna ride with Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin and his offense, I think they're different. LSU, I didn't think LSU is as good as I thought they was going to be this year, even though they blew out Mississippi State. But I think Ole Miss pulls on top this way. Are they playing home or away? Do you know? I think they play down in Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you would be right. Let me check really quick because I don't want to get that wrong.
Thing with that one though,
It's at Ole Miss.
It's at Ole Miss. Yeah, they playing down at Ole Miss. I'm taking Ole Miss on this one.
the thing with that one though, is that Ole Miss, the atmosphere is not inside the stadium; it's outside the stadium. And does Lane Kiffin have one good win in his entire career? Does he have any big wins whatsoever?
Yeah, they got the win when they beat Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. That's always a big win against Mississippi State versus Ole Miss. So I guess you could say that's a good win.
That's a good win for sure, rival wise. But every time Lane Kiffin has been in a big game, he has come up short when it's been big ranked opponents that he's even predicted to beat. I mean, last week with Bama, that Ole Miss team just fell so flat on its face against Bama that has looked so down this season. That was their opportunity to really make a name for themselves in this conference, but they just failed. And so I got to go with LSU in that one. I can't pick Ole Miss.
Yeah, it was disappointing, the Alabama game for Ole Miss. I want Ole Miss to win, so my point will be proven, but I think LSU, I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to root for Ole Miss, so I'm not going to stop talking about that. Other games this weekend outside of the SEC, really quick. You got number 10 Utah versus number 19 Oregon State. That's a Friday night game. Number 24 Kansas versus number 3 Texas. 11 Notre Dame versus 17 Duke. Anything on any of these? I'll throw it to Dom. I know you're a big college football guy in and outside of the SEC. Any of these games that you are most excited for and you think we need to be tuning into?
Utah, Oregon State's going to be a really good and fun one.
That's what I was thinking.
Oregon State has been a very solid team this year. Just a great ground and pound game. And then obviously last weekend they lost to Washington State. Wazoo was able to come out on top in that matchup. But this is still
what state makes up most of the northern border?
I'm definitely with Utah. I think I got to pick Utah because they have looked super strong and they've been without Cam Rising. Once you add Cam Rising into that, I think that Utah is going to be probably the favorite to win the Pac-12 if they keep playing at the same level that they have been. And they add another offensive weapon who just changes the game and is able to make the offense powerful and potent while the defense continues to do their job.
Yeah, I don't know who to pick for this one. I really think this will be a close game. I'm excited to see it as well. That would be my game I pick outside of the SEC for this week. With that, we are going to go into our last segment. We got a few minutes left. We're going to talk Monday Night Football recap. We got Thursday Night Football tomorrow night to preview. And we have, I believe, some NBA news as well. So stick around. We will be right back for our pro sports segment here. You're listening to Volunteer Radio, 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock thanks Fieldhouse Social, the Wednesday home for rock solid sports, for their support. American craft food, beer, and cocktails, plus a 25-foot big screen at University Commons Way. Fieldhouse Social welcomes sports fans and others alike to enjoy dishes like the citrus marinated chicken, grilled Faroe Island salmon, and smoked ribs. FieldhouseSocial.com or on Twitter and Facebook.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. allvols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, go Vols basketball.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club soccer team for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, and the season runs into October with matches against Memphis, Chattanooga, Lexington, and more USL League One opponents. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com. And WUTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. One Knox SC. We are one.
The
Rock thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the campus headquarters for food, brews, pool, shot starts, sports, and more fun. Tuesday night is team trivia night, and Thursday nights are for bingo. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page for more info.
What's up, Vol Nation? I'm Garrett Wright from Kingston, Tennessee, and you're listening to Volunteer Radio. Tell your smart speaker to play 90.3 The Rock.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols volleyball program for their support. The 2023 Lady Vols volleyball team will face off on the court against LSU Sunday, October 8th at noon at Thompson Bowling Arena. Allvols.com for tickets to cheer the Lady Vols on against LSU. Stay tuned to Rock Solid Sports for more UT Lady Vols volleyball info. Go to utsports.com, and a link is at wutkradio.com. The Rock says, good luck, Lady Vols volleyball.
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears!
90.3 The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department for their support. The 2023 football Vols will play home games at Neyland Stadium against SEC rivals South Carolina, Georgia, Texas A&M, and others. Allvols.com for info, with a link at wutkradio.com. UT student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. 90.3 The Rock says, go Vols!
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Corey Mason Shoes on Gate Street and at West Town Mall. And Bliss Home at the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music by bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana, like the B-Boys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgrave, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emmylou Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss Home, and Corey Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports. It's Wednesday night. I'm Chloe here with Jacquez at Fieldhouse Social, our Wednesday night sponsor. They got Bob Marley in here. They just started playing it. One of my favorites for sure. They got trivia going on. They got some MLB back here, and every sport you could imagine. Some NFL recaps on the screen as well. So we are going to get into NFL right here. First of all, Monday Night Football. The Eagles beat the Bucks 25-11. The Eagles are looking like they are coming back to be pretty good again this year. And I mean, this is just great for Eagles fans. If you know them, you hate them, or you love them. But I have a few Eagles fans, friends from Philly, so it makes me happy. Also, the Bengals finally won versus the Rams, 19-16. Joe Burrow working his way back in there a little bit. So we'll see where that season takes them. Both those teams are 1-2 now. Wherever you guys want to start off with, I guess the Eagles first. That game was first this past Monday.
Eagles are definitely a team that can win the Super Bowl. I mean, we saw what they did last year, and it's looking to be more of the same right now. And, of course, there's a lot of controversy out there right now about the so-called tush-push play, where they shoved their quarterback over into the end zone or across the first down marker, which I think the debate around has been quite funny and quite fun to watch, and is one of the more exciting things in the NFL right now for me personally.
My thought process behind the whole, basically it's a QB sneak, is ridiculous. Like, just mirror what the offense is doing. It's not that difficult of a play to deal with. I don't understand why everybody thinks it's like this play that it's impossible to counteract or to counter it. It's not really that hard. I mean, I've seen it all the time, and I've seen it plenty of times where it hasn't worked. Heck, I think actually that week, a team tried that and it didn't work. So I don't know. I just feel like the whole debate between that is overblown. It's also, I'll say this, it's also very, very, very risky a play to pull because you can get injured on it very easily. So it is
What's
a
his
very
name?
risky play to run.
Yeah, absolutely. This game, the Bucks with Baker Mayfield in there, and then versus Jalen Hurts, definitely an interesting game to watch for sure. But the Eagles, I definitely think they're going to be back up there at the end of the season in the playoffs, and quite possibly in the Super Bowl, and could win the Super Bowl. So we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely agree. When it comes down to the QB sneak, I don't think that's an easy play to. I just lost my whole train of thought, but I don't think that's an easy play to go for it because, like, when you think of a QB sneak, everybody is crashing in the middle. So I don't think there's nothing wrong with a push behind. I mean, this is a team game. We got to play this together as a team. So yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like now when the Eagles are like fourth in inches or third in inches and whatnot, I think every team in the NFL should now realize, okay, they're gonna sneak it. We better be ready. So I don't understand why people are like, oh no, this is overpowered. This is ridiculous.
The main complaint behind it, though, that I'm hearing now from my dubious sources is just that defensive players, they're legally not allowed to push each other through the offensive line. So they're complaining that the offense is allowed to push a player, but they can't push back. So they can't exactly mirror what the offense is doing. But as always, the main rebuttal to me is just don't let them get that close. You know how you stop the play? You don't let them get that close. Just play better defense.
Yeah, I just feel like the whole controversy behind the sneak is just overblown. So, but outside of that, yeah, Eagles with a good win over the Bucks.
I mean, NFL is one of the funniest sports of all time. And you cannot tell me otherwise. Baseball's great too because I just think baseball players are so dramatic, but in the best way possible. But then, because you have to be, and then the NFL has so many funny moments. It's absolutely crazy. Onto the Bengals game. Defeated the Rams 19-16, their first win of the season. And this is the team that the Titans take on this weekend as well. What did we think about the Bengals this weekend? And do we think that they are going to be able to work their way back in there for playoff contention and for potentially a good season? Because the beginning of the season was not looking very great for them. Even the Bengals social media was kind of making jokes about it. So that's when it's not great.
It's certainly interesting for the Bengals right now because we've seen the interviews where they talk about Joe Burrow not being at 100% when they were playing him. So maybe that has more to do with it than people have thought, and that Joe Burrow's injury and just him coming back from that, the progress has been a little bit delayed. They get the win here, though, which is massively important. I mean, the Rams are a very solid team right now, obviously without Kupp, but still very good. Lots of guys filling in for the receivers there. Just I don't know what to make of the Bengals, though, because I don't think they're necessarily the most impressive team on any side of the ball. I just think they're one of those teams that tends to have a bit of an it factor, especially with Joe Burrow, and I think that's what takes them over the top as one of the better teams. So I don't know where they're going to lie here this season with Joe Burrow seemingly fizzling out in the start of the season. Maybe he gets back to 100% and he's amazing, but you never know.
I feel as though to kind of put into perspective where I think this team will be at the end of the season, I don't think that they'll be playoff contenders, but I don't think they're going to be the laughing stock of the NFL. Like, I think the Broncos and the Bears have that on lock. But I think it is Joe Burrow not being at 100%. And what concerns me the most is that he is playing while this injury is aggravating him, and it's going to affect his play. And then he's gone in about 5 years because, well, that injury is just sitting there lingering and it takes a toll on his play. So that's what concerns me the most about that injury kind of aggravating him. But who knows? Maybe it's just him being a little rusty from that. And in the next 3 weeks, we are talking about him being in the MVP race. So who knows? Momentum can change on a dime in the league.
Yeah, no, it's really unpredictable for him for sure. So we'll see about that in the next few weeks. Another thing on tomorrow night, the Lions versus the Packers. This is a game that is definitely interesting. Both teams 2-1. It's the Lions who, everyone's watching this year. I mean, how can you not? And then you also got the Packers. So I don't know, guys. Who do you think is going to take this one? I really don't know. I think the Lions might be on a roll here despite their one loss.
This one's going to be interesting for sure. The Lions, obviously, like you said, been on a bit of a roll at the start of the season here, and I think they look great with Jared Goff back there, and they've just been a very solid team this season, which it feels like a miracle. It feels like Christmas came early for Detroit. But the Packers, interestingly enough, we all kind of thought they would fall off without Aaron Rodgers, but Jordan Love stepping up, looking good. This could be a better game than I had initially thought it would be, but I'm still taking the Lions in it just because they've been down for so long that the energy they're getting out right now, they're going to win a lot of games.
For me, I'm kind of with the Lions too, but I feel like it's more so that the Lions have a statement win. Like, they beat the Chiefs. I don't see that with really the Packers. They beat what arguably you could say is the worst team in the NFL, and then they beat the Saints after they had lost their quarterback and had to rely on Jameis Winston. So I don't know. I just am not really on the Packers so far. I don't really see them as all that. I will say it is impressive that they were able to rack up a 2-1 right now, especially without Aaron Rodgers. Like, everyone was saying that the Packers are going to be awful, but right now they're at 2-1. I know it's early in the season, and who knows, maybe at the end of the season they don't win another game. So I don't know. I just don't see the high with them, or the hype with them, I guess. And again, I don't see a statement win from them like I did with the Lions. So I'm going to take them.
I'm going to take the Lions as well. Lions, like you said, they beat the Chiefs. Like, that's just nothing else needs to be said about that. Their loss to the Seahawks, was an overtime 37-31 loss. So, I mean, while still a loss, I think that is nothing that is nothing that causes me to lose faith in the Lions. Who you're going with, Jacquez?
I don't know if y'all gonna like this answer, but I think I'm gonna roll with Green Bay. I think Jordan Love is trying to prove himself week in and week out, and I think he's trying to show the world that he can lead this team ever since Aaron Rodgers has left. So I'm rolling with Green Bay this week.
Yeah, neither could happen. Really quick before we close out NBA news, Damian Lillard traded to the Bucks. I mean, I know we were talking about it during the break as well. Dominic is our big NBA person as well. What does this mean? What's going to happen now that he's over there with all the guys on the Bucks?
This is huge for the NBA because, I mean, that's such an improvement for Milwaukee to be able to have Damian Lillard on the team, picking and rolling with Giannis. That's just going to be a lethal combo to watch. And they do lose a little bit of that defensive edge that they had with Drew Holiday. Nonetheless, though, I mean, the league these days is so much about pace and offense. And then Dame's ability to spread the floor and just see guys is incredible. Milwaukee's a team to watch right now. And they're probably my favorite to win the East right now. I just don't see another team that can do better than them.
That team's going to be absolutely crazy. Most important news of the week, we didn't even mention Taylor Swift was at the Chiefs game. Just kidding. But no, it is. Everyone loves Taylor Swift, and if you don't, you're lying. I'm a Swiftie. It's true. We'll be right back. We got the alternative. Oh.
We are WUTK 90.3 FM, Knoxville, Tennessee, home of the Tennessee Volunteers.
It's time for 90.3 The Rock's Your Alternative.